In 1984, at a high-security American prison, a guard at the outer gate received an urgent call from the prison's supervisor. The supervisor informed him of a bomb threat in building number 1 and instructed him to open the gates, bring the prison van to the building, and prepare for an emergency evacuation. The prison, surrounded by 2 fences, had strict regulations prohibiting both gates from being opened simultaneously. However, due to the bomb threat, the guard decided to break protocol and open both gates at once. The van entered the prison and stopped near the building. A team of explosives experts dressed in heavy gear emerged and carefully handled what appeared to be a bomb. One of them calmly sprayed the device with a fire extinguisher, seemingly to cool it down and prevent detonation. The team placed the bomb in the van and quickly exited through the open gates. The guards, relieved, believed they had averted a catastrophe. But this was no ordinary bomb squad. It was a group of 6 death row inmates, each a notorious murderer, executing one of the most daring prison escapes in American history. The escapees were James and Linwood Briley, Earl Clanton, Derek Peterson, Willie Jones, and Lem Tuggle. All 6 had been sentenced to death for heinous crimes, including multiple murders. Their escape plan was as bold as it was ingenious. It began months earlier when one of the inmates sent an anonymous message to the state prosecutor's office, warning of a bomb in their cell block. Though searches turned up nothing, the idea of a bomb threat was planted in the minds of the guards. Mecklenburg Correctional Center was designed to hold the worst of the worst. Every movement was monitored, and death row inmates were under constant watch. Yet, like any institution, complacency found its way in. The prisoners studied the guards' routines, noting who was most susceptible to distraction, which areas lacked proper surveillance, and how emergency protocols were handled. They understood that strict rules existed, but they also knew that fear could override even the best security procedures. The plan hinged on 3 crucial elements: disguises, deception, and speed. Over the course of several weeks, they crafted prison-made uniforms resembling those of the emergency response team. They stole a prison officer's radio and hid it in the laundry. Most importantly, they needed a convincing bomb. They wrapped an old television set in a blanket, carefully placing wires and metallic scraps around it to make it appear authentic. On the night of May 31st, 1984, they set their plan into motion. First, they created chaos inside the cell block. 2 of the prisoners started a loud altercation, drawing the attention of the guards. When the guards entered to break up the fight, they were swiftly overpowered. The inmates stripped them of their uniforms, tied them up, and gagged them to prevent them from calling for help. With the uniforms on, the inmates moved quickly. They now had control over the radio system and used it to call the front gate, posing as guards responding to a bomb threat. They announced that an explosive device had been discovered and requested immediate evacuation procedures. The outer gate guard, following standard emergency protocols, hesitated at first, but was reminded of the previous bomb threat warning. Not wanting to risk an explosion inside the prison, he followed orders and opened both gates. As the prison van approached, the disguised inmates played their roles perfectly. They moved with authority, barking orders and maintaining a sense of urgency. When the van came to a stop near Building 1, they retrieved the fake bomb, treating it as though it were an active explosive. One of them dramatically sprayed it with a fire extinguisher to make the act more convincing. With guards watching from a distance, the team loaded the device into the van, climbed inside, and drove out through the still open gates. The entire escape took less than 15 minutes. By the time the prison realized what had happened, the inmates were already gone. The van was abandoned just a few miles outside the facility, and the group split up. The Briley brothers, considered the most dangerous, chose to go on their own, while the rest attempted to flee to Canada. Law enforcement launched one of the largest manhunts in US history. Every available resource was mobilized. FBI agents, state police, and even the National Guard. Roadblocks were set up across multiple states, helicopters scanned the terrain, and K-9 units followed every possible lead. The first breakthrough came when Earl Clanton and Derek Peterson were spotted in a small town. Clanton, still wearing a stolen guard's jacket, was recognized by an officer at a gas station. The officer called for backup, and within minutes, they were surrounded and arrested. Lem Tuggle and Willie Jones attempted to stay under the radar, stealing a pickup truck and driving north. Tuggle was caught after robbing a store, leaving behind crucial evidence that led to his capture. Jones, exhausted and without a clear plan, ultimately turned himself in. The Briley brothers, however, were far more elusive. Authorities tracked their movements through their uncle, who had been in contact with them. After days of surveillance, the FBI pinpointed their location, a car dealership where they had been hiding. On June 19, 1984, federal agents moved in. Unlike the dramatic escape, their capture was uneventful. Surrounded and outnumbered, the Brileys surrendered without resistance. The escape sent shockwaves through the prison system. Mecklenburg Correctional Center immediately overhauled its security protocols. New electronic systems were installed to ensure both gates could never be opened simultaneously. Multiple guards were suspended, and the warden was forced to step down amid heavy criticism. The 6 escapees were returned to death row, their brief taste of freedom serving only to hasten their fate. The Briley brothers were the first to be executed, followed by the others over the next decade. One inmate, Willie Turner, had initially been part of the escape plan but chose to stay behind, hoping his pending appeal would spare him. It did not. He was executed in 1995. The 1984 Mecklenburg prison escape remains one of the most audacious prison breaks in American history, a testament to the lengths desperate individuals will go to for freedom and the relentless efforts of law enforcement to bring them to justice.